The Scottish Football Podcast
from BBC Radio Scotland.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast on Monday, the 14th of August 2023. I'm Liam McLeod. Remember to subscribe, it sounds. We're going to be with you every day, just a couple of clicks, and you'll get the podcast every single day, as if by magic. Today's podcast is being recorded in the Swiss city of Geneva, where Rangers have arrived round about the time we're recording this, in fact, late afternoon, ahead of tomorrow evening's Champions League third qualifying round second leg against Servette. They, of course, come here with a 2-1 lead after last week's first leg at Ibrox. There's going to be full coverage for you across BBC Scotland on Tuesday evening as they battle for a place in the playoffs and a likely rematch with the Dutch side PSV Eindhoven, who they took on at the same stage last season. Of course, overcome them to reach the groups for the first time in 12 years. So a 2-1 lead after last week's first leg at Ibrox. And Steven Thompson joins me to discuss this game. Former Rangers striker, of course, who won loads of trophies in his career, and including his career at Ibrox, and who, we were discussing this earlier, scored in the qualifying stages of the Champions League, scored in the group stage of the Champions League for Rangers as well. So
you make it sound awfully good. It wasn't that good.
Well, yeah. I think there'll be still people out there who have got good memories of those moments, okay. I would have thought. He's well placed to talk to us about this massive game for Rangers on Tuesday evening. We're going to get to that in a moment, though, because we want to cover all the action that we witnessed at the weekend as well, and week 2 of the Premiership, and of course the rest of the divisions as well. But focusing on the Premiership, we'll have a little look back at the weekend, Tomo, and start with Sunday's matches, and that game at Pittodrie. Celtic winning again, perhaps again not at their best, but plenty enough to get over the line against an Aberdeen side who, certainly for me, I was at the game, working at it, Pittodrie, and they were much better than at any point against Celtic last season, but still, despite not being at their top levels yet, Celtic picking up another 3 points.
Yeah, and I didn't see the game live, obviously, but by all accounts, Celtic weren't really firing on all cylinders either. I didn't think that they started the game the previous weekend all that well, but it just shows you, the quality that they have. They can grind out results or get results, and Aberdeen are obviously one of the top sides in the division. They can get these results without having hit their peak yet. I think that will come as Brendan Rodgers develops the squad over the next few months, but they know how to win games, and they did that again on Sunday against Aberdeen. Not been a great start for Aberdeen to the season. The expectation levels are massive at the club, especially after last season finishing third. So they've got a bit of work to do, but it's still very, very early in the season, and certainly no panic.
The Aberdeen squad's a little bit threadbare, I think it's fair to say. Barry Robson saying afterwards he expects, or at least hopes, to bring in 4 new recruits between now and the end of the transfer window. For Celtic, I thought Stephen Welsh performed really well. Rio Hatate was taken off injured, having come on at half-time, and he kind of changed the game in Celtic's favour. He was excellent. So victory for Celtic. There was a couple of gifts in there that Aberdeen gave away, particularly that second Celtic goal, Nicky Devlin heading straight to Kyogo, who made no mistake with the finish.
He rarely makes a mistake from there.
Yeah, well, I think we were discussing it on Sportsound actually. Nicky Devlin, he's generally 7 or 8 out of 10 every week. He's normally Mr. Consistent, and as you say there, we know exactly what Kyogo does in that kind of situation. He still had a lot of work to do. Of the 3 o'clock kickoffs then, we'll start with the Hearts Kilmarnock game. It was a goalless draw. It was a bit of a thrilling goalless draw. From what I was hearing on the road back down after the Aberdeen Celtic match, and disappointment for Hearts that they weren't able to follow up the opening day victory over St Johnstone. But what a start for Kilmarnock and Derek McInnes.
Absolutely. I think he's recruited ever so well this season. Last season was difficult, and I think he said that, as they came back into the Premiership, that it was going to be a difficult season for them. They managed to find the results, largely due to their home form, to keep them in the Premiership. I do expect this season that they won't be in any bother at all. Looking at the first couple of games, I really feel as though they've got the defensive mix really spot on, and they offer a threat at the top end of the pitch. All right, they didn't score on Sunday against Hearts, but the performance level, I think Derek McInnes was very pleased with. and expect them to be pushing and challenging for a top 6 place. Whether Derek would admit that himself or not, but that will certainly be the aim of the club, and you wouldn't put it past them.
And Hearts obviously are looking towards this massive game against Rosenborg in Conference League qualifying on Thursday. They're 2-1 down going into it. It's not ideal preparation because I believe that they didn't have too many attacking opportunities in the game against Kelly. Perhaps a little bit of a siege late on. So that's not ideal, but it's so important that they get the Tynecastle crowd involved early on in that game on Thursday, because that could be like an extra man.
Exactly. They've got to get the fans behind them very early on in the match. I expect them to attack Rosenborg. It's not the Rosenborg that we knew of the past in terms of the quality of the side in European football, but they're still a good side, and Hearts will need to be at their best to beat them. But with that crowd behind them, and they've got players that can hurt the Rosenborg team, then I'm expecting a big performance from Hearts on Thursday evening. It'll be difficult, but the Lawrence Shankland away goal was vital, because if they come into this game on Thursday 2-0 down, that's a mountain to climb. But now, the tie is very much still alive for them.
Amateurish defending, another unacceptable performance, a disjointed performance, more excuses, not fit enough. That's some of the Hibs supporters who've been on the BBC Sports Scotland website today discussing their performance against Motherwell. Of course, a fabulous win again, and Motherwell are just going like a train under Stuart Kettlewell. It's a terrific win for the Steelmen, but Hibs been such a strange start to the season.
I mean, they're so up and down. It's incredible. I thought the performance in midweek in Europe was very, very good. I thought they were excellent in that game. Obviously, they've got a healthy lead to take to Switzerland, where we are, actually. I don't even know how far away.
That's a fair bit from here.
Is it?
Yeah,
not
we're
close
not
to
that
us.
close. No.
Oh, well, it sounds good. But they have put themselves in a great position. However, what Hibs team is going to turn up? That's the issue just now, because they go from one game where they're excellent to the next game where they're not, and it's not been a great start to the league campaign for them, that is for sure. 2 defeats. They have got talented players, they've got pace, they've got players in their team who are going to hurt every defence in this division, but you just don't know which Hibs team is going to turn up on the day, and that is the major issue for them, is finding that consistency. They didn't find it last season. They went on wee spurts where they'd win 3 games and they'd lose 3, and then they would a couple of draws. They never really sustained a period of kind of consistent good results, and they've certainly not started that way in the league.
It's a 3-hour drive northeast. If you
that was
fancy
quick. You
going
can
to
Google there, Liam.
Well, yes, other search engines are
right,
available.
okay, yes, that's true.
Yeah, it's Saturday. Another fantastic afternoon for your team, St Mirren, joint top of the Premiership just now after
magnificent
beating Dundee. It was a little bit nervy for them. I think they had to survive the missed penalty and what have you, but I mean, it's a dream start, isn't it, for Stephen Robinson off the back of last season?
It is, but I mean, I think you would expect at home St Mirren are going to pick up a lot of points this season. 31 points last season at home was a large part of the reason why they finished in the top 6 for the first
they've got
time.
Aberdeen next in Paisley.
They do, and they'll fancy it.
Yeah.
St Mirren will fancy beating anybody in Paisley. Stephen Robinson's done a remarkable job since he joined the club. Lost some key players in the summer, but again has recruited well. I was impressed with Mandaron last season at Motherwell. It never really happened for him, and I was wondering, what was he going to be like. But actually, he impressed me in the game. St Mirren, excellent first half, really, really good. Dundee, were really struggling in that first half, but credit to Dundee for their second half performance. But it's a wee lesson for Dundee in just terms of how difficult it is to pick up wins away from home in the Premiership, and you can't give teams 2 goals of a start, that's for sure.
St Johnstone, another defeat, this time to Ross County. When you add the 2 defeats at the start of the season in with the League Cup group stage and saw them go out, it's just been disastrous for them.
It has. They're missing a lot
of the campaign.
A lot of players. You have to say that straight off the bat. They're missing some key players. I reckon about 5 or 6 players who would start games for them. So that's not helping matters at all. And Stevie, I played with him at Rangers, I played with him at Cardiff. I'm desperate for him to do well, but the season has not started well at all. Their next game, of course, is against Celtic. I think it's at Parkhead, so you can almost presume that they might not win that one, so that would be 3 games in the bounds. Then I think very shortly after, I think they've got Rangers up at McDermott.
It's a tough start.
It's a really, really tough start. I just hope the board gives Stevie the time that he needs to get the players back into his team that will help St Johnstone climb the table. But I mean, you can understand why supporters are worried or concerned at this minute in time, because 2 weeks into the season and Stevie's having to come out and say the performance was unacceptable isn't really what you're wanting to hear, is it? So I'm desperate for him to do well. I hope he turns it around.
Yeah, Malky Mackay and Ross County with another terrific victory for them, of course, having lost at Celtic Park. But when you throw in their previous game in Dingwall was that playoff final against Partick Thistle, it's they're potentially building something decent there. I think he's recruited really well, Malky Mackay, over the summer, so they'll hope to not be embroiled in the relegation battle. And that leads us nicely to Rangers, who put Livingston to the sword. A late flourish, really. The subs all making an impact when they came on. We are here in Switzerland, in the city of Geneva. It's roasting hot here. It's about 30 degrees Celsius as we record this. It's going to be the same tomorrow. It's going to be pretty hot at kick-off time. Full coverage across BBC Scotland on television and on Sports Sound at bbc.co.uk/Sports Scotland, as well as on the radio. So we've got you covered for the game here on Tuesday evening. Rangers arriving about now. Firstly, they're 2-1 up, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a lead is that, do you feel, going into the decisive leg? 2-1. They were 2-0 up and should have been 3-0 up at one point when Lammers missed that glorious chance. Two big chances. Yeah. The penalty just before half-time has given Servette some real belief. Yeah,
there's 2 ways to look at it. I mean, I felt as though there was a lot of negativity after the game, but what you've got to remember is it's a Champions League qualifier against a decent team, and Rangers have won the game. So it's hard to be too critical. I think the main thing for the supporters was that when Servette went down to 10 men, Rangers didn't really capitalise on that and take a stronger lead over here to Geneva for the second leg. Servette were missing some key players. They might have those players back for this leg tomorrow evening, and they've got it all to play for. They've sold out their stadium for the first time in 20 odd years. It's a massive occasion for them, and Rangers will have to be at their best. So far, I would say, obviously, Kilmarnock, really disappointing from Rangers. They were okay in the build-up up until the final third, but in the final third, poor. I thought against Servette, they started the game very well, and you saw a bit more cohesion between the forward players. Against Livingston on Saturday, started the game well, but then had a spell of a good 40-50 minutes where it just, things aren't quite clicking. And you can say, yes, it's a new team and it's going to take time, which is a fact. But the problem is the games that are coming just now are absolutely massive for Rangers, and you've not really got time to click in the league or in this Champions League qualifier, and they're going to have to get it right tomorrow evening. What sort of performance will it be? Will it be more of a kind of defensive performance and try and counter? But I think they've lost a bit of the pace in the side as well. You saw when Matondo come on the weekend, as much as he splits opinion, his pace caused Livingston problems. So if you're going to play in a counter-attack, I'm not sure that Rangers have the speed in the team to go and do that. You don't want to be sitting on the lead either, because Servette will put them under massive pressure. So it's a difficult one for Michael Beale tomorrow, how he approaches the game. But I do feel as though you're hearing people talking about negativity, and I felt for Dessers on Saturday, having been there myself. He gave the ball away a couple of times, and the fans were on his case, and he's kind of turning around saying, what's going on here? But that is the pressure of playing for Rangers, and if you're a striker for Rangers, you've got to be scoring goals, you've got to be linking the play, you've got to be entertaining, and you'll quickly learn that the standards, yes, the standards, but the expectation levels of the supporters are through the roof. So it's an eye-opener for these new players coming to Rangers. At other clubs, it's all right to maybe not win every game, and you don't need to be a 10 out of 10 every week, but when you're playing for Rangers, especially at home, then the demands and the pressures that are put there by the supporters are absolutely huge, and the players need to learn that really, really quickly.
Well, let's hear from the Rangers manager, Michael Beale, who's been speaking to the media from Switzerland.
We know that Servette did fantastically well here a couple of weeks ago against Genk. Everything's to play for, the tie is open, and the fact that it's in front of a full house just it makes the game even more special. You know that the home team have to come to win the game, so there's going to be opportunities for you if you can regain the ball in interesting areas and attack at speed. We think it will be quite an even contest tomorrow, quite open in terms of there has to be an outcome on the night, so we're ready for everything that comes our way. I just think we're really focused. I think we did a good job last week to get ourselves in front, but this game for us starts 0-0, and it's important we try to win again, because if we do that, then we know we're definitely through. We know it's hugely important to the club, the fans, and us as players and staff as well. So it's just important we attack the game head on.
One big plus, Stephen, for Michael Beale on Saturday, it was a huge plus actually, is the number of his new signings who got their first goals for the club. And if you go back to the first leg when Desser's got his first, but then you've got Danilo getting on the score sheet, Lammers, Sima and Dowell, you know, that's going to be a big boost for them personally, isn't it? But for the team as well, it's going to be so beneficial.
The subs made a big impact, and he's got a decision to make now tomorrow evening in terms of team selection, because the players who come in definitely offered something different. Livingston were obviously tiring at that stage, but the players who come in made a difference. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of lines up in middle to front areas. Dill's goal was absolutely exceptional. It was a brilliant goal from start to finish, not just the finish. I thought that Cantwell started the game really brightly. The other decision is, for me, I thought Danilo, when he moved centrally, looked more dangerous. I know he's been playing kind of floating about off the left and centrally, and you can see he's got ability, no doubt about it. But for me, I thought he was more effective when he went into the number 9 position. He went into the striker position. So I'd be interested to see if he starts up top tomorrow. I think John Souttar, since the start of the season, has been exceptional.
Well, he was man of the match on Saturday.
Brilliant. He's been
a 4-0 win, which shows you how good he was.
Yeah, he's been excellent. Not just defensively, but I think on the ball, his distribution has been excellent as well. So it'll be interesting to see, because obviously Connor Goldson missed the weekend. Balogun played. Whether or not he was just resting Connor Goldson, he's been
that was the official.
Well, he'd been out for a long period of time and had only just come back. Yeah. So I'd expect if Connor Goldson's fit, he will start the game alongside John Souttar. But for me, Souttar's been absolutely brilliant so far this season.
Servette were playing on Saturday past there. They drew 1-1 at home to St Gallen. They lost a relatively late equaliser in the match. It was Chris Bedia who scored again. That's him up to 6 goals already this season, I think it is. And he was the man who converted the penalty at Ibrox. So he personally is coming into this in good form. A lot of draws recently. You kind of mentioned earlier they're a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a good team.
Yeah.
How dangerous a match will this be for Rangers, do you think?
Well, I mean, the fact that Rangers come into the game with the lead is a huge bonus, but you're expecting Servette to come out of the traps at home. As I said earlier, their first sellout in 20 odd years. The atmosphere is going to be red hot. They know what's at stake. You go into this kind of playoff round, probably against PSV, who's going to be a very difficult opponent anyway. But Rangers beat them last year. So you're expecting
Malik Tillman's gone there. He's gone on loan from Bayern Munich to PSV.
He has. That's very true. You're expecting Servette to come right after Rangers, so it's going to have to be a strong defensive performance. But I do feel as though Rangers have enough quality to score. What they don't want to do is concede an early goal, and the tie's level, and then all the momentum and pressure is with Servette. So it's about having a solid start to the game and then trying to keep Servette at distance with offering a threat yourself at the other end of the pitch, which I do think Rangers will have. I do feel as though Rangers can score and will score tomorrow night, but I'm not sure that they'll keep a clean sheet. So I think it's going to be incredibly tight. I really do. I think extra time's a possibility. I think it's going to be a very, very tight match. And a very kind of nervy match for Rangers.
Given what happened in the Champions League last season, do you think Rangers would be happier performing in the Europa League against that standard of... No, wait a minute. against that standard of opponent. And looking long term, given they reached the final of that tournament a couple of seasons ago.
I see where you're going with this. Champions
League, obviously the money men are not going to be agreeing with that potential theory. I'm not saying it's my theory. I'm just wondering is that a better...
I see what you're saying.
Is it better for them as a club to not go through what they did last season, but go through potentially what they went through the season before?
Not for me. And for the players, absolutely not. And for the manager. And for the supporters, you want to be in the elite competition. Champions League's where it's at. It's for players. It's the highest level you can play at outside international football. So it's the elite. You want to be there. Rangers want to be there as a club. Rangers want to be there every year as a club. So for me, it's a no-brainer. You want to get through and qualify for that. Obviously, you've got the financial implications as well. If they get through this round and they lose to PSV, I think there's a parachute payment of quite a hefty sum of money, which would be good, and then they go into Europa group stages and they can have a bash at that. What they don't want is to go into Champions League and obviously have a similar story to last season, which was an embarrassment. It was a humiliation at times.
That's what I'm kind of getting at.
We were at all the games. Yeah. Yes, I know, but you still want to be there. And actually, the club with the players and the staff and the fans want to be there again to try and
make up for that.
Put the wrongs to right. So it's like it's basically you want to be there. But I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get there. Should they overcome Servette tomorrow night, PSV look no bad, so that'll be a difficult game. However, as I said previously, that they have beaten PSV before. They did it last season to make their way into the Champions League, so you wouldn't write them off, but it's going to be difficult for them to get there.
Yes, indeed. It is Servette against Rangers Tuesday evening. It's a 7:45 kick-off. Sportsound will have live coverage on BBC Radio Scotland. Sportscene will have live coverage on the BBC Scotland television channel, and of course bbc.co.uk/sportscotland. You can also take in the action. It is Sturm Graz PSV. That's an 7:30 UK time kick-off. I think they are PSV with that big 4-1 lead going into that, and the winners of that tie will play the winners of the Rangers tie. So do tune in for that. We will have another Scottish football podcast for you in the wake of that game, get you all the reaction, and then we've got more European football for you later in the week with Hearts and Hibs both looking to continue to make inroads towards the Conference League group stage, and Aberdeen will enter the Europa League playoffs next week as well. So until tomorrow and all the action in Switzerland, bye bye.
The Scottish Football Podcast
from BBC Radio Scotland.